We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
U.S. President Donald Trump praises his Supreme Court pick Brett Kavanaugh, but says he would be open to withdrawing his nomination.
President Donald Trump admits his friendship with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping could be over as he accuses Beijing of seeking to damage his prospects in upcoming elections.
Malacanang assured that the administration's top concern remains fighting inflation.
And Iglesia Ni Cristo holds International Aid for Humanity in Toronto, Canada.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. U.S. President Donald Trump praised his Supreme Court pick Brett Kavanaugh, but said he would be open to withdrawing his nomination if he finds testimony about sexual assault allegations against him to be credible. Take a look.
It sounds like what you're saying is there is a situation, there is a scenario under which you would withdraw Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. Is that correct?
If I thought he was guilty of something like this, yeah, sure.
In prepared testimony released on Wednesday, the 51-year-old Blasey Ford said she feared Kavanaugh would rape her during the attack, which she said occurred in the summer of 1982. Blasey Ford said the incident left her drastically altered, but it was her civic duty to tell lawmakers what happened. Kavanaugh has also been accused of exposing himself to a classmate named Deborah Ramirez during an alcohol-fueled Yale University party a few years later. On Wednesday, a third woman came forward with explosive allegations, saying she witnessed sexually abusive behavior by Kavanaugh when he was a teenager. Trump said he was skeptical because he personally had been the target of false statements in the past made by various women. He also slammed his Democratic opponents, accusing them of being con artists and destroying the 53-year-old judge's reputation.
I think it's ridiculous. It's a con game that they're playing. The Democrats are playing this game that is disgraceful. It's a disgrace to the country, and I think you're going to see it in the midterms. I think people are wise to it. It's just a con game. He's a high-quality person. They're bringing people out of the woods. If you look at this lawyer that just came out, he's a lowlife. He represented Democrats. Nobody ever talks about that. He's a Democrat lawyer. Not a very good one, but he's a Democrat lawyer. So it's a horrible con game. I think the people are finding it out, and hopefully over the next couple of days it will be settled up.
President Donald Trump faces a rebuke of his hardline Iran policy at a UN Security Council meeting that laid bare a rift between the United States and other world powers. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani predicts that the United States will eventually rejoin an international nuclear deal, saying talks this week at the United Nations showed his counterpart Donald Trump's isolation.
In the years since the deal was signed, Iran's aggression only increased. The regime used new funds from the deal to support terrorism, build nuclear-capable missiles, and foment chaos.
آمریکا یک اشتباه کرده یا برمیگرده از این اشتباه و به نقطه درست خودش و یا میخواد به اشتباه خودش ادامه بده. آمریکا روزی باز خواهد گشت، دیر یا زود.
Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking in New York alongside U.S. President Trump, thanked the United States for its support to Israel. Take a look.
First, thank you for your strong words yesterday in the General Assembly against the corrupt terrorist regime in Iran. You back up your strong words with strong actions, and I think the fact that you have brought American sanctions to bear has cut the cash machine of Iran and its campaign of carnage and conquest in the Middle East. I want to say how much I appreciate your robust defense of Israel's right of self-defense, which you just expressed. I think everybody should understand that Israel will continue to do what is necessary to defend ourselves against Iranian aggression in Syria, in Lebanon, anywhere else.
Meanwhile, for the first time, U.S. President Donald Trump explicitly says he supports a two-state solution in the Middle East during a bilateral meeting with Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly.
I like two-state solution. Yeah.
Mr. President,
That's what I think. That's what I think works best. I don't even have to speak to anybody. That's my feeling. Now, you may have a different feeling. I don't think so, but I think two-state solution works best. Yes. Go ahead.
Why are they?
He said he would present a two-state peace plan for the Middle East in the coming months, voicing confidence the Palestinians would return to talks despite his unwavering support for Israel.
Now, staying at the UN, is President Trump's friendship with Chinese President Xi Jinping over?
And I like China, and I like President Xi a lot. I think he's a friend of mine. He may not be a friend of mine anymore, but I think he probably respects, from what I hear.
Now, President Trump accused China of election meddling earlier at a UN meeting as the two countries are engaged in a growing trade war.
They do not want me or us to win because I am the first president ever to challenge China on trade. And we are winning on trade.
Meanwhile, China's Foreign Affairs Minister rejected allegations made by President Trump of Chinese interference in upcoming U.S. elections.
中国历来坚持不干涉内政原则，这是中国的外交传统，也得到国际社会的普遍赞誉。我们过去、现在和将来都不会干涉任何国家的内政，我们也不接受任何对中国的无端的指责。我们呼吁其他国家也能恪守联合国宪章的宗旨，不得干涉。
They do not want me.
Trump did not go into details about how he believed China was interfering in the midterms, which could see the Republicans lose controls of both the Senate and House of Representatives. But his allegations comes as trade tensions soar between Beijing and Washington, which this week enacted new tariffs against China covering another $200 billion of its imports. The United States also irked China earlier this week by going ahead with plans to sell a batch of military parts to the self-governing island of Taiwan. Beijing sees Taiwan as part of its territory awaiting unification and is deeply suspicious of the island's relationship or relations with the U.S.
Staying at the UN, President Trump said he rejected a meeting request from Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Trump says he doesn't like NAFTA that has been very bad for the United States after admitting he refused to meet with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Take a look.
President, Susan Lee from Fox Business. Did you reject a one-on-one meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau?
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because his tariffs are too high and he doesn't seem to want to move, and I've told him forget about it. And frankly, we're thinking about just taxing cars coming in from Canada. That's the mother lode. That's the big one. We're very unhappy with the negotiations and the negotiating style of Canada. We don't like their representative very much. They've taken advantage. I love Canada, by the way. I have so many friends. I have everybody. So many friends. But that has nothing to do with this. I'm representing the United States. Mexico was totally, I mean, they were great. By the way, the new president has been great. The deal is done. Now it has to go through Congress, and, you know, a lot of things have to happen. But we've done, Bob Lighthizer, who's here someplace. Where's Bob? Bob Lighthizer has done a great job of negotiating, as they have. But the deal is done. It's up to Congress. But Canada has treated us very badly. They've treated our farmers in Wisconsin and New York State and a lot of other states very badly. Dairy products, 300%. 300%. How do you sell a dairy product at 300%? The answer is you don't. What it is a barrier. It's basically they're saying, we don't have any barriers. By the way, it's 300%, so you don't send it in because you can't compete. So Canada has a long way to go. I must be honest with you, we're not getting along at all with their negotiators. We think their negotiators have taken advantage of our country for a long time. We had people that didn't know what they were doing, and that's why we had, over the last 5 or 6 years, if you average it out, we had $800 billion a year in trade losses. It's ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
U.S. President Donald Trump says the United Nations wasn't laughing at him when he boasted about his government's successes during a speech to world diplomats. They were just sharing a good time. The incident took place during Trump's speech to the annual UN General Assembly. Trump had launched into what sounded more like a campaign speech ahead of November's congressional elections, boasting in trademark fashion of how in less than 2 years my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. Assembled global dignitaries started to chuckle.
In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
And I was in front of a large group of highly professional people, most of whom are from either other countries or the United Nations. People that aren't big into clapping, applauding, smiling. And I heard a little rustle. As I said, our country is now stronger than ever before. It's true. I mean, it is true. And I heard a little rustle, and I said, it's true. And I heard smiles, and I said, oh, I didn't know there'd be like a... They weren't laughing at me. They were laughing with me. We had fun. That was not laughing at me. So, the fake news said people laughed at President Trump. They didn't laugh at me. People had a good time with me. We were doing it together. We had a good time. They respect what I've done. The United States is respected again. The United States was not respected. Everybody was taking advantage of us.
All right, Eagle News International will be right back.
Stay with us.
Join the EBC Family Fun Run, November 4, 2018, at the Ciudad de Victoria Complex, Bulacan. Choose from race categories: 1.062 kilometer, 2.5 kilometers, 5 kilometers, and 9.55 kilometers. Registration is ongoing. For more details, log on to www.eaglenews.ph/EBC Funrun or call 784-7450, local 1162. You may also visit www.facebook.com/EBC Funrun. EBC Family Fun Run!
The Philippine Central Bank raised its benchmark interest rate by 0.5 percentage point, stepping up a battle to curb inflation that'll exceed its target for this year and next. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas increased the overnight reverse repurchase rate for a fourth time to 4.5%, it said in a statement in Manila, in line with the forecasts of 20 of the 22 economists in a Bloomberg survey. 2 predicted a 25 basis point hike. The Philippine economy is under threat from soaring prices, with Standard Chartered PLC predicting inflation will exceed 7% next quarter. The peso has lost about 8% against the US dollar this year, among the worst performers in Asia. The decision was announced after financial markets were closed.
The palace assured on Thursday, September 27, that the administration's top concern remains fighting inflation. In a palace press briefing, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque Jr. said that while the country currently faces a myriad of issues and challenges, the government is focused on mitigating the effect of inflation. Roque made the statement following the latest Pulse Asia survey, showing that inflation and higher pay for workers are the most urgent issues many Filipinos want the government to address. To show the administration's strong resolve to tame inflation, President Duterte signed last Friday 4 issuances which seek to resolve the spike in agricultural products.
Right now, the foremost priority of the administration is fighting inflation. So everything is sidelined now dahil hindi naman natin inaasahan talaga yung pagtaas bigla ng presyo ng crudo at ng petrolyo. No? So I would say that even the administration acknowledges na mas importanteng harapin yung problema na malapit sa sikmura ng taong bayan. At bagamat hindi po natin inaabandona ang federalismo. No? Darating po tayo dyan pero alam po natin na kinakailangan mas marami pang diskusyon, mas marami pang pag-aaral at mas marami pang dissemination na dapat gawin para sa federalismo.
Meanwhile, the World Trade Organization downgraded its global trade forecast for this year and next, pointing to escalating trade tensions around the world. Trade will continue to expand, but at a more moderate pace than previously forecast, WTO said in a statement, saying it now expects merchandise trade volumes to expand 3.9% this year and 3.7% in 2019, down from an April forecast of 4.4% and 4% growth, respectively.
President Donald Trump told the UN General Assembly that OPEC is ripping off the rest of the world by pushing oil prices higher. He has called on OPEC to tame oil prices by boosting output several times this year, even as his administration's sanctions on Iran push crude costs higher.
The United States stands ready to export
our abundant, affordable supply of oil, clean coal, and natural gas. OPEC and OPEC nations are, as usual, ripping off the rest of the world. And I don't like it. Nobody should like it. We defend many of these nations for nothing, and then they take advantage of us by giving us high oil prices. Not good. We want them to stop raising prices. We want them to start lowering prices, and they must contribute substantially to military protection from now on. We are not going to put up with it, these horrible prices, much longer.
The coalition of roughly 24 exporters has been limiting its output since January 2017. They do this in order to end a punishing oil price downturn that bankrupted hundreds of American oil companies and heaped financial pressure on crude-producing nations. Trump blames that policy for pushing oil futures into a range between about $70 to $80 per barrel and keeping the national average gasoline price anchored near $3 a gallon. More news will be coming your way when Eagle News International returns.
We'll be right back.
i-feel yung tagumpay pag yung pinaghirapan mo, yung hindi ka nang gamit at ng apak ng tao na kasama si God.
Miss Ima.
Dadagdagan ko na yun sa kanya kasi ganun naman talaga.
Ng success para sa'yo?
Ang meaning ng tagumpay is yung nasa sarili mo, happy ka.
Totoo.
Na satisfied ka sa lahat ng mga ginawa mo looking back. Ako po si Ima Castro.
At ako naman po sila Arnie Luzada.
Abangan niyo po kami sa Rule Yourself to Success.
Ngayong Sabado na po yan, dito lang sa Net 25!
Napay-isigaw na, nanatulap ay pagsalaki na pa.
Welcome back. I'm Jeffrey Angeles, and this is Environment News. Former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg is using his vast fortune, estimated at $51 billion, to spur action to address climate change and to tilt the U.S. Congress toward Democratic control. Watch this.
We are making progress. China's making some progress. Throughout Europe, they're making some progress. In the end, it's not governments that drive behavior. It's capitalism. It's the economic interest of companies who want to be environmentally friendly because their employees want it, their investors want it, their customers want it. Basically, the federal government has been missing in action for a long time, not just this administration. But it really doesn't matter because coal-fired power plants, no matter what the government says, they're going to go out of business because of low-priced natural gas. And if you try to order them to stay open, they're not going to pay attention to it.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said climate change is an absolute priority and the world is not doing enough. Watch this.
Climate change is the defining issue of our time, and we are at a defining moment. Many times journalists ask me, what are my priorities? I always say we have many priorities in the UN, in peace and security, in human rights, in development, but I would say this is the absolute priority. Climate change is indeed running faster than what we are, and we have the risk to see damage, irreversible damage, that will not be possible to recover if we don't act very, very quickly. I call specifically on the countries that account for the majority of greenhouse gas emissions. In this regard, I'll be reaching out to the leaders of the G20, the group of countries that account for around 80% of the global greenhouse emissions. Only courageous leadership will make the goals of Paris a reality. And this means ending subsidies to fossil fuels and high-emitting agricultural practices and shifting towards renewable energy, electric vehicles, and climate-smart industry and agriculture. It means closing coal plants and replacing those jobs with healthier, better alternatives so that the transformation is just, inclusive, and profitable.
According to a UN study, the commitments made so far by parties to the Paris Agreement represent just 1/3 of what is needed. He said the effects of climate change are already being felt with disastrous consequences for people and all the natural systems that sustain life in the planet. Just last year, the economic costs of climate-related disasters hit a record of $320 billion. A 5.0 magnitude earthquake rocked Indonesia's western Aceh province early Thursday, the U.S. Geological Survey said, but there were no immediate reports of damage or casualties. Take a look. The shallow quake struck shortly before 1 a.m. local time with its epicenter 20 kilometers northwest of the city of Langsa. No tsunami warning has been issued. Indonesia, one of the most disaster-prone nations on Earth, straddles the so-called Pacific Ring of Fire, where tectonic plates collide and many of the world's volcanic eruptions and earthquakes occur. In 2004, a tsunami triggered by a magnitude 9.3 undersea earthquake off the coast of Sumatra in western Indonesia killed 220,000 people in countries around the Indian Ocean, including 168,000 in Indonesia. A series of quakes and aftershocks on the Indonesian holiday island of Lombok through July and August killed about 500 people and forced hundreds of thousands into evacuation shelters or tents. A beluga whale spotted in the River Thames estuary outside London, far from its natural Arctic habitat, is swimming strongly and feeding normally, Britain's main animal protection charity said on Wednesday. At the moment, there are no major concerns for the welfare of the animal, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals said in a statement, adding that the whale appeared able to move fast in the water and dive. The extremely rare sightings triggered wonder and excitement on Tuesday, and the whale was spotted again in the same area on Wednesday. The sight of a beluga whale so far south, 1,000 miles from even Iceland, is exceptional. Beluga whales are a species of the icy Arctic. Finding one in the tepid Thames is an astonishingly rare event, said Rod Downey, Polar Chief Advisor at WWF, the Worldwide Fund for Nature. Lucy Baby, Head of Science and Conservation at the marine conservation charity Orca, said it was the most southerly recording of a beluga in Britain, according to the BBC. The previous reported sightings of beluga whales in UK waters were in 2015, when 2 were spotted in the northeast coast of England and 1 in Northern Ireland. Rescue teams on standby in case the whale gets into trouble. On the occasion of the San Francisco Climate Summit, a passive and self-contained residential building built in the heart of San Francisco opens to visitors. Topped with a solar panel roof, the building has a clean energy production system and is carbon neutral, which allows it to stay powered in case of a disruption to the general network. It was awarded the U.S. Department of Energy Housing Innovation Award. Watch this.
Basically, it's a Passive House certified multi-unit condominium building, and it is self-powered. And it's also a nanogrid. And what that means is it's an energy system that is completely supported by itself. So if the grid goes out because of a disaster or a blackout or a brownout, the building basically disconnects from the grid and stays fully powered. We have 3 power walls per unit. That's a total of 40.5 kilowatt hours of energy storage per unit. That's enough to power each unit for 2 to 3 days, basically. And they're constantly being recharged by the solar on the roof.
Narito na ang umaga, pagkatapos ng bagyo ay may pag-asa.
The Iglesia Ni Cristo continues with its humanitarian mission in different parts of the world. In Toronto, Canada, through the Aid for Humanity program of the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, over 3,000 care packages were prepared for the homeless refugees, new immigrants, as well as clients at local shelters. Sabir Mufti reports.
The exhibition place in Toronto, Canada, is the biggest entertainment site and prime destinations for trade shows, sporting events, concerts, and more. Although Toronto is considered to have the best entertainment center and business district, some of its poverty-stricken streets tell a different story. Here today, ready to lend a helping hand, the Iglesia Ni Cristo, or Church of Christ, is holding its International Aid for Humanity.
The Iglesia Ni Cristo, Church of Christ, led by Executive Minister Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, conducts its International Aid for Humanity to fight against poverty in cooperation with its humanitarian arm, the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation.
We have about 4,000 care packages with winter articles, some food that we thought that would be very helpful to that kind of situation. And once we finish helping the people who are able to come, we're going to take the leftover bags and we're going to go through the city, we're going to go through the town, and we're going to find these people and we're going to just hand it to them as a gesture of loving our fellow men.
This charitable event will benefit new immigrants, refugees, people living with disabilities, the elderly, men and women, youth communities, and those who are afflicted by economic challenges.
Check donations were handed out by Brother Glacerio Santos, the Iglesia Ni Cristo's internal auditor, to all the shelters who participated in this event.
Yeah, thank you so much for your generous donation to the neighborhood organization. We really appreciate the help to the community. The community is very grateful for your support and really giving back to those in need. It's a very powerful event, and to invite everyone together, I think this is very powerful.
This is something big, really, you know. When you come here and just like you see this kind of crowd and you see the people with this kind of feeling here, it means a lot to us. It is a lesson for all of us, you know, just like to attend the Church of Christ, something really special and global, you know, just like globally, to see just like how they organize this event and how they put all the effort to show us just like all of us, we can just like come together and also support, just like whenever we are possible, we can make a difference. And always good to support the people who are in need, you know. First of all, I would like to thank them very much, you know, for just coming today and organizing such an event like this.
Having them approach us and talk to us about the event and being willing to put together kits that encompass so many things that people on the streets need, especially during the cold months of winter, is a fantastic thing, such as socks, mittens, toques, all those kinds of things are things that really are needed in order to help them survive and manage through the winter if they can't find shelter. So that was fantastic to be able to get that invitation to come and know that there's support from the community to be able to help support those in need at that time.
I'm telling you, I am so amazed. Like, I did not expect this. I thought, oh, we're just coming down. Shadi said to come down, you'll get something. And I'm thinking, okay. I didn't really want to come. But when I came, I was really, really touched. And to see how the church is reaching out to the community, I am very much impressed.
I think it's a really great cause. I think it's a very community-driven initiative, and we're happy to be receiving this from them. So we're really grateful.
Church members gave away winter accessories, basic necessities, hygiene kits, and food items for the recipients.
Here in Toronto, there are so many people who are suffering from poverty, and also a significant number of people who are homeless. So approximately here in Toronto, they have about 7,000 bed spaces for people who are without emergency shelter. And usually between 90 to 95% of those bed spaces are being taken up each and every day. So when it comes to this activity, even in a small way, we are reaching out to those people, especially those who are homeless and those perhaps who have just entered into Canada, but they don't have their basic needs. We're going to help them in one way or another so that they in turn may have some kind of aid or assistance when it comes to their immediate necessities. We've also reached out to certain shelters and organizations. They'll be bringing members of their organization to this activity so that they could partake of what the Church of Christ has prepared for them today. So yes, we're looking forward to it. It's just another chapter in the social civic activities of the Iglesia ni Cristo. We do these kinds of activities all throughout the world. So again, this is just another chapter in the good deeds of the church, which of course are based on the teachings of the Bible.
We're here right now here at the Queen Elizabeth building here in downtown Toronto. Currently we have our brethren, some of the organizers that are right now just gathering up, preparing the goods. Now these goods are winter care packages that have been also donated by our brethren inside the Church of Christ from different local congregations throughout the GTA. We even have our brethren who helped as far as Ottawa, Windsor, Montreal, and Beaconsfield.
Here, this is a really huge event to thank the sponsors, the shelters, like the refugee centers and shelters. This is a great opportunity for us, the FYM Foundation, to appreciate their efforts, their hard work, and reaching out to the new immigrants too.
Reporting from the Aid to Humanity event here in Toronto, Canada, I am Sabir Mufti, 1 with 25.
And that is all for me. I'm Jeffrey Angeles, and I'm 1 with 25. Here's Ben Bernaldez with Sports News.
In golf, Tiger Woods rediscovered his former glories by claiming his first title in over 5 years last weekend, but now he turned his attention to a competition he has never dominated, the Ryder Cup. The 14-time major champion was peerless for 11 years as an individual, although struggled with the team dynamics of the match play showdown and has only been on the winning side once in 7 previous appearances. His return from the wilderness of back surgeries and personal problems has brought about the opportunity to have another crack at the Ryder Cup in France, where he looks more relaxed and at ease among his teammates after serving as vice captain at Hazeltine 2 years ago and at the 2017 President's Cup. Woods is hoping that in the new stage of his career and after his stunning victory at the Tour Championship, he can help the United States end their 25-year wait for a win on European soil.
Because as a player, you focus on your playing partner you're playing with and just go earning a point. As a vice captain, there's so many moving parts that you're in charge of. And so that was very different in 16, but my overall Ryder Cup record, not having won as a player since 1999 is something that, you know, hopefully we can change. And we haven't won as a U.S. squad here in 25 years on foreign soil, so, you know, hopefully that will change this week as well.
A different reception will surely face him when the competition starts, though after he was greeted warmly on Tuesday with the French spectators, many of whom would never have seen him play before. Woods said that he couldn't wait to experience the atmosphere of a Ryder Cup as a player for the first time since 2012.
There's a lot of nerves and it's excitement. I mean, it really is. It's something we don't get to experience in that regard because it's the final round of a tournament on the very first hole and every match you teed up. And it's a different atmosphere and one that we absolutely love.
In tennis, world number 1 Simona Halep was the biggest casualty on a day of upsets at the Wuhan Open in China on Tuesday, with the Romanian toppled in straight sets by Dominika Cibulkova. The sparse crowd watching the late-night clash was stunned as the decisively off-color Halep failed to win a single game against the hard-hitting Slovakian in the first set. The French Open champion suffered a back injury during a practice session on Sunday and failed to fully recover for her opening match in Wuhan against the 31st-ranked Cibulkova despite 2 days bed rest. Despite the injury and needing treatment several times during the match, she put up a strong fight in the second set, breaking Cibulkova's serve 3 times before eventually succumbing to 7-5. She was the biggest casualty on a day of upset at the 2018 Wuhan Open, a $2.7 million tournament which features 9 of the WTA top 10. And in NBA, Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr said his players will take a pressure-free approach to the new season on Monday as they chase a 4th NBA title in what could be their final campaign together. Kerr said that with the prospect of his phenomenally successful roster possibly breaking up next year, he would encourage the Warriors to enjoy themselves in the knowledge that their place in history was secure. The Warriors clinched a 3rd NBA title in 4 seasons in June with victory over the Cleveland Cavaliers, the latest milestone in an era of dominance for the Bay Area franchise. The Warriors could, in theory, bid farewell to 2 pillars of the success of recent season next year, with both Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson entering free agency. DeMarcus Cousins, who joined the Warriors in July, will also become a free agent. The Warriors opened their campaign with a home game against the Oklahoma City Thunder on October 16. And these are the stories for EN Sports. I'm Ben Bernaldez, and I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterests and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles, and
we're 1 with 25.